Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at Wheel Talk Podcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
We're live.
I love that. God, I love that. What's that off of? Do you know?
Is that The Simpsons?
Little Ray Zelinsky.
Ray Zelinsky.
You don't know?
I'm blanking.
Dan Aykroyd is the actor.
Oh.
Ray Zelinsky, and what the movie is. Any ideas?
The only Dan Aykroyd movie I know is The Blues Brothers. So
You don't even know Ghostbusters? Come on.
I
It's
guess,
It's not Ghostbusters, but yeah, they love that. That's off Tommy Boy.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Batman in a little coat.
Yes. Fat man in a little coat.
Hi Ryan.
Hi, Becca.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. I had a show today, so had a farmer's market. Did you know that? You didn't even look at Instagram today, did you?
No.
I'm like, I'll share this on Instagram. Your face was like, what? You had a show? It's
On
Wednesday.
a Wednesday?
Yeah, so I did the Fort Thomas Farmers Market. It's like 10 minutes up the road. I took a half day off work and then went over there. And
Did you make any money?
Yeah, I sold about $820.
Fucking shit, man.
And the booth was like, I think I paid $35 for 2 weeks total.
I hate you.
Or maybe it's $35 per week.
I'm just saying that I hate you so everybody else can hear it verbally. Because that's what they're all thinking.
Spoon rests, people. Gotta get those spoon rests. Somebody wrote me on Instagram this weekend. It was like, fucking spoon rests. I killed it. Like, I started putting spoon rests out at this show, and they sold like crazy.
I should make spoon rest for
Who
shitty
knew?
pots. Yeah, who knew? I mean, I'll be honest. I have one of your spoon rests, and I use it frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I sold 16 spoon rests.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
7 mugs. All right. Yeah, so that's my night. I am on the track to restock some as Becca pours another glass of wine. I'm on the track to I'm trying to restock some mugs, so I'm on the Becca track. Not quite the Becca track. I'm on, like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like, I've got 10 days to finish mugs.
Yeah, because, well, actually, you got a little bit... Okay. If you ship them out by the 18th, they're not going to get there by Christmas.
No, I'm not shipping them. I'm trying to get them for my last show.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to finish them. I just threw them before this. I threw about 16 of them, and they're red clay, or speckled clay, so they're going to dry quicker. So when I wake up tomorrow, I'll probably cover them in plastic until I can add handles to them. Plan to add handles tomorrow, and then probably put them in the kiln on Monday. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to Louisville this weekend, so maybe Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to restock some because I'm like out. I just like stopped making speckled mugs for some reason. And then the oil bottles, I stopped making speckled oil bottles for a bit. So now I'm like actually out of them or close to out of them. So I'm on the path on this condensed schedule of getting things finished. So we'll see if that happens. But that's the goal. Because I'm always worried that like I'm out of something and I have a show coming up where I'm like, damn, if I had those things, I'd probably sell like 4 or 5 of them. Like if I have these speckled white mugs, I'll probably sell like 4 or 5 of them between now and the end of the year. So I'm like, let's get these things restocked so I can sell them, because I can sell speckled white. I can sell the like this copper and whatever other color, like I'll sell those pretty good. So I'm trying to get them in stock by my last show of the year. So we'll see.
I want to do an experiment one day on a show that you like that's going to be good, and then I want to sell your shit and see if I sell worse because I'm a bad seller, and I want to see if like
So you want to do worse?
Yeah, I want to experiment and
You
see.
want to waste a show for me? Are you going to pay for me to be there too?
Maybe. I don't know. You won't be there.
You don't want me to be there at all?
No.
What? Like you choose how to set up the booth and everything?
Yeah.
Like you're going to choose what goes in my bins, what you take. You're going to go set it up.
Yeah.
You're going to communicate with the organizer. I'm representing RD Ceramics.
Are we going to do the buddy show? We should set up a buddy show.
The buddy show. I mean, you mentioned it. We need to do it. That's give people a little quick
A refresher. A buddy show is that you have to sign up with a buddy, and you're not allowed to sell your own stuff. Your buddy has to sell your stuff. So, like...
Are you sharing a booth?
No. You have two separate booths next to each other.
So you can't answer questions about your stuff or anything.
But, I mean, you could yell across the booth or whatever. But, yeah. And, so... Like, me and Ryan would be buddies, and I would sell Ryan's stuff, and Ryan would sell my stuff. I think that would be so much fun.
I mean, I feel like I could sell your stuff good.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would sell my stuff. I'm curious what you would say.
Probably better than you. I'm kidding. I have no fucking idea.
Oh, this is great. The buddy show. How would you say, like, you're not allowed to... It's not like you're... The idea is you're not splitting a booth. You are your own entity. You're on your own island, but you have to sell the other person's stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you have to sign...
Do they set up... They set up
their own booth. They set up their booth.
Okay.
Yeah. They set up their booth. All you're doing is swapping booths. People within the booth.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gotta happen.
It's gotta. We'll do it.
That's definitely interesting. I think it'd be fun to talk. Would you advertise it that way too?
Yeah.
The customers, like,
called
hey,
the buddy show.
Yeah. The buddy show.
The accountability buddy show. Oh.
And they have like the go-to list of like, what clays do you use? Is this food safe? Is this going in the microwave or the dishwasher? What would you use this for? How much are these?
Great.
Oh man, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I like the idea.
It's a hard show to pull off because you'd have to have fun vendors. You know, you can't have some stingy ass like.
And then do they have to be like similar mediums, like the same medium, or different? You know?
Honestly, I think it'd be better to be different mediums because if you're right next to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or across the way from each other, I think would be actually better if it was like a row and you were across the way so you could yell at them from the other side.
You're like directly across from each other?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much all about me, Reese, going on right now. What about you? What's going on? What's new?
Well, not much is new, but I've been making larger pieces at work, which has been actually a lot of fun. And I did
Are you sore consistently?
No, I've been pretty good.
Okay.
I
mean, you probably haven't thrown as much as you did last week. Last week you threw like 40-something big pieces in one day or something like that.
I threw 60 in 2 days, I think.
Whew.
Yeah. And small stuff on top of that. But, yeah, I, like, woke up the next day and I was like, fuck my life. So I've been throwing bigger stuff. And so today I was like, I really want to make a a bowl for one of my friends that hopefully won't listen to this. But so today I took all my extra clay and it weighed out to about 7 pounds, and I made this big ass mixing bowl, and it is, if I may say so, beautiful. It's
beautiful.
beautiful. So I'm
7 pounds. That's probably a big bowl. What is that, like 14 inches across?
It's 13 inches across and 7 inches tall.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, once you go above 4 pounds, like 4 pounds, and like you're getting some big boys.
Yeah, and it's not thick. Like, it's amazing how much I've improved since I've been here. Like,
nice. And you're probably not trimming off a ton of that, right? Like,
yeah, I
you
won't
probably
be.
Still have a narrower base, and you're using as much of that clay as possible. You're not leaving a bunch down there to like support the sides because you know what the hell you're doing.
Like, obviously there's a thick bottom. It's a bowl. But like, yeah, no. It's like
it's not like an inch thick.
It's like a half an inch thick all the way through. Not a half an inch. That's too much. Probably like 3/8 inch.
I mean, even a half an inch though is pretty good for the bottom edge of the bowl, like the bottom where it meets. Yeah, the sides meet the.
It's
bottom.
just like, it's so cool to like throw a big one and be like, that was easy. That was so easy. It's just really satisfying, you know. Also, I wanted to say, and I was going to tell you this before, but I wanted it to have like a
shock value.
Not a shock value, but I wanted the giggle.
I want to hear people that are like, fuck Ryan's giggle. Like, he laughs too much. Shut the fuck up.
No, your giggle is so fucking adorable.
I'm just kidding.
So
I won't stop, people.
Can't stop, won't stop. So I was laying in my bed before I came down here because I had like 30 minutes. And okay, it's fucking chilly in my room because I have to close the door because Lloyd gets in and he pees on the bed. So I close the door and there's only one heater vent into my room. And so the whole apartment's like really toasty and my room's like an ice box because the heater's off and it's like all outside wall exposed.
That's also a really big room, right? I mean, it's not a small room.
It's a big room, and 3 of the walls are either to the outside or a freight elevator. So,
jeez.
So it's all cold.
It's basically like an ice box.
Yeah, it's basically like an ice box, and so I'm like in my blankies, in my sweatpants, and under like my Hudson Bay blanket that my Nana gave me, and like just like snuggled in there. And have you ever like, I set a timer at 8:45 for 30 minutes, so I'd wake up at 9:15, and I was just like sitting there and I was like fully awake, and time was moving so slowly, and it was so magical. Like,
so wait, were you trying to nap, or you were just trying to lay there and just make sure if you did fall asleep you got woken up?
Correct. And so, but like, you know, like sometimes when just time moves really slowly and you're like really happy about it, like I like looked at my watch and I was like, wow, I have 7 minutes.
I don't know that I've directly experienced that. I'm usually like waking up from my alarm and I like turn over and I'm like, okay, my alarm's about to go off in about 20 minutes. I get to go to sleep for 20 more minutes, but it's like, I wish it was longer.
Yeah. But I don't know. And then I almost texted you and was like, I'm bailing.
Well, when you texted me, you were like, I'm in my bed and it's so warm. I wish I could record from here. Sad face or something. I'm like, I started reading it and I was like, I'm in my bed. It's so warm. I'm like, fuck, she's going to bail. And then and then you said that and I'm like, oh, okay. We're still good. We're still good.
I bailed 2 weeks ago and I can't bail again.
No, I mean, we can have a bail like once a month. Like, that's not.
Yeah, once a month, but it's already been once a month.
But it's not really like, you're not bailing for the week. You're just bailing for the day. And then you're like, okay, we'll record another day that week. So.
But I don't want to record tomorrow. And that was what was going through my head. So.
Yeah. That's why we try to record early. If there's a possibility of like, okay, let's do Tuesday or Wednesday. Let's do Tuesday, because if something happens Tuesday, then we can do Wednesday.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Anyway, that's what happened.
So throwing a big bowl. Is it the red clay or the speckle clay?
It's the big
It's
turtle.
a work clay, right? Okay.
It's work clay. Normally I wouldn't use work clay, but I was like, had a little bit of extra, and I probably shouldn't have used it anyway because we're really low on the clay. But I did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you were already throwing bigger things, so like it's probably good to be in the groove of throwing that, because I mean all the clay bodies do a little bit of different things with, and that probably has a little bit of grit in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you definitely want some of that when you're throwing 7 pounds of a bowl.
Right, and I was, she asked me if I wanted to do the bigger bowls, and I kind of wanted to, like, try one out to see. And the bigger bowls are 6.5 pounds, and I threw 7, so it was good to see that it's, like, not going to be an issue at all.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, those big pieces are the big bucks, right?
Yeah, the everything bowl that I was doing this last time is $8, and the bigger bowl is $12. So.
Damn.
Yeah, and if
that's
you can
a workout, though. I mean, if you're making you're probably making 12 to 15 of those at a time, right? 12 to 16 or something like that.
Yeah, like the everything bowls, I had like 20 on my list for yesterday. So, but also I got it down to like 3.5 minutes per bowl.
Damn.
That's pretty fucking good. Like,
that's great.
If I may say so myself, like, I think that Dusty did his in 4 minutes, and I did mine in 3.5. So.
Nice.
Yeah. I was pretty proud of that. And that's even ribbing off the sides.
Sweet. That got me thinking. When do you? I know this is it's been on the back burner, but are you at all thinking about world record throwing stuff? Like,
as I'm biting off the split end on my hair. No. I know I need to get to it. I will.
No. I mean, we got time. You're just refining your skills more and more the more pots you throw. So, I mean.
That's true. Yeah, no, I want to get to it. I don't want to rush myself, and I want to, like, be ready. And I want to make sure I get the right clay and, like, what I'm doing with it. I just feel like I'm finally kind of, like, getting into a groove. So I want to kind of, like, yeah.
Yeah, you're coasting a little bit, but
yeah.
It's good to coast.
Yes.
Don't push too hard. Don't, take it too easy. You're just I don't want coasting.
I don't want to burn myself out.
Yeah, challenging yourself just enough.
Yeah. But yeah, it does feel good to know that, like, this year has definitely been a progress year.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, shit, when you throw... didn't you say you threw like 15,000 pots already this year or something like that? Holy shit.
Yeah. That's because I saw some Instagram guy and he was like, I threw 18,000 pots this year already. And I was like, what? like how many?
Does he make and sell them himself, or is he a production potter?
I don't know. I can't remember who it was, and I don't follow them that closely.
Okay.
But yeah. Next year I'll do more. This year I had a hard time. There was some moments that were not conducive to my health. So.
Yeah. Guess who's back? Back again.
Marble's back. Tell a friend.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Everyone report to the dance floor. To the dance floor. To the dance floor. Out. Everyone report to the dance floor. Now stop. Pajama time. Do 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 do.
I think that's a different Eminem song.
It is.
Okay.
That was my Eminem song. There's no pajama time.
All right. What's next? We should probably do are we doing a what would you do if?
Yeah.
Bringing it back.
Back again.
Segment's back.
Tell a friend. Okay. What would you do if, Ryan, what would you do if you met your favorite potter in the wild?
Okay, so I got a feeling if it's my favorite potter, they might not know who I am. So I would proceed with caution because I know it can be freaky if you go up to somebody that you don't know or that doesn't know you and you're like, "Hey, I know you." They're like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Right.
So I would probably say, "Hey, I follow you on Instagram," or "Hey, I follow your stuff. I really like what you make. I enjoy it, and I get a lot of value out of seeing your stuff. It's pretty inspirational." That's probably kind of what I'd say.
Nice.
I wouldn't make it awkward. I'd just be like, "Hey, I really follow your stuff. My name's Ryan. Thanks so much for all that you share." Something like that.
I like that response.
Keep it short and sweet. I wouldn't try to take their time and stuff, and
Short and simple.
just let them know I appreciate them.
I appreciate you. That's what I appreciate about you. I think that I would be like, up top, give him a high five, and then walk away, and then turn around and be like, "You're a badass," and then that's it.
They're like, "Is that person just having a good day or what?" I always like it when people come to the show or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I follow you on Instagram," or "Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's cool. We don't usually get to the like, "Who are you? What do you do?" kind of thing, but it's
Yeah.
like, they know me.
Totally. I think it is very cool.
Especially if it's a customer, because it's like they don't really know much about pottery, so they're like, "Oh yeah, I started following you like 2 years ago. It's nice to see you at a show, blah, 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 blah." Or they're like, "Oh, I came to the show because I saw you were going to be here." And I'm like, social media works.
Yay for social media.
And then if they're like a customer, I'll be like, "Yeah, you probably know a lot about the process of like how this gets made, so whatnot." So yeah, that's pretty cool. And there was like a mother-daughter at my not the show today, but the last show, and they were like, the daughter was like excited to see this stuff, and then she was like, "Yeah, I shared it with my mom a while ago, and she's been following it, and now she's obsessed with it because I think the daughter like makes pottery."
Oh, cool.
So she's like, "Oh yeah, like she likes her stuff." So
Yeah, that's
so they ended
awesome.
up getting things at the show. So that
So
was nice.
wholesome.
Yeah. So you just give them a high five, and then shout back, "You're a badass," and they'd be like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah, that's what I would do. You're a badass. Or that would be inappropriate. I was gonna say slap them on the butt as they go by, but that's probably inappropriate.
Good game. Yeah, I don't think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Alrighty. So, onward.
Onward and upward.
I want to read a quick review just because we have so many, and I appreciate them.
All right,
I'm sure you do too.
I do.
All right. This one's an oldie. 2020.
Wow.
Kembo159 Boom. Keeps me company. This podcast really grew on me. I don't always agree, and sometimes I yell at my phone as Becca and Ryan discuss things, but that's what makes it fun. I've been binge listening to Wheel Talk as I'm in the studio. It makes me feel like I'm hanging out with other potters without having to do any of the work of actually socializing. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Kimberly from Out to Sea Pottery.
We will always be here for you if you don't want to socialize.
Thanks, Kimberly.
I wish some of my friends would be there for me when I don't want to socialize too.
Love it. All right.
Okay,
Becca.
we're going to questions now, aren't we?
Yeah, we got some questions. They're grouped up. They're related to each other. They're generally about process.
Okay.
How to improve your throwing techniques and also like some finishing techniques. So the first one came from JDT Ceramics, and it reads, "I was wondering if you guys could share some tips for throwing thinner. I think I'm decent at throwing a cylinder and turning it into a mug, But if I want to move on to wine glasses, I'd like to throw the rims thinner. But as I'm practicing, I keep effing it up. Are there any tips you can share?
Yes, there are tips we can share.
All right, Becca is the wine glass queen.
I'm the wine glass whisperer. So what I would suggest is don't worry about your walls being thinner. Worry about your rim being thinner. So like when I throw wine glass, I actually throw I'm sorry, the computer's doing something very strange. I actually throw the base pretty thick and the walls pretty thick, and then I just thin out the rim. And the second to last throw, pull that you should do. Ooh, I'm sorry. The second to last.
Becca.
Wow. The second to last pull that you should do, when you go up to the very top, just pull it very thin on the rim, like not super thin, and then the last pull that you do, it should thin out even more, and that's how you get like a really thin rim that's like a glass-like feel. But you can also do a push down on the rim at the last pull, which if you have a thicker rim, you kind of like push it down at an angle on the you can put your point your finger down and then just kind of like push it down so that there's like a little bit of an angle into the rim. I don't know how to explain it. It's like if you had
I kind of know what you're talking about.
like a straight wall on the outside of the cup, and then it goes at a 45-degree angle down, and then for like maybe like a quarter of an inch, and then it goes straight down again.
Yeah. And you would do that with your finger, or would you do that with like a metal rib?
I would do it with my pointer finger, just like you can kind of like spin it in there. But I prefer doing it the first way that I said, where I actually, when I do a wine glass, the first pull that I do is the wall height, and then I make it thin on the rim, and then I do my second pull.
What's the shape on the first pull?
First pull is a cylinder.
It's a straight wall cylinder.
Yeah, first pull is a straight wall cylinder with a thin rim, and then the second pull is my shaping pull, keeping in mind that I only do 2 pulls for a wine glass. But my shaping pull, where I go out on the bottom with a nice lower belly and then come in with a top, so it looks like a wine glass.
Okay, so you're doing that in 2 pulls.
Yeah.
And are you one thing that I tend to do with mugs is like, are you like lightly compressing the rim each pull?
I compress it a little bit on the first pull.
Okay, and then the second pull, you got the body, you got the kind of bulbous shape, so it's already got that wine glass look. And then do you do a third like refining thing, or is that just where you just adjust the lip a little bit?
I don't, but I don't expect almost anybody to pull a wine glass in 2 pulls.
Right. How many ounces are you starting with for those?
12.
Normally? 12 ounces, okay.
Well, for Rebecca's, I do 12. For my personal ones, I do 14.
Okay. So if somebody were doing a third pull in there, do you still recommend the shaping on the second pull, or do you recommend the shaping on the third pull?
I think that that's easier to say from the back, because like it doesn't matter how many pulls you make it. Once you get to your height, your third to last pull should be your height pull. Your second to last pull should be the shaping pull, and then the last pull, and like that height pull would be the one that has the thin rim. I find that trying to make your rim thin on when the mug is completely done and over with, or wine glass, is really difficult to do because you're already like kind of like at its max. So if you refine that first and then like do your shaping and kind of bellying out the bottom, it's a little bit easier.
Okay. Because it's also like there's not as much support if it's already got that kind of bulbous shape to thin out the rim. It's very fragile at that point, and it's probably going to collapse if you do too much, or if there's not enough water, or any little bit of torque can like collapse it.
Yeah. And then when you're doing your pulls, like when you're doing your shaping pull or your refining pull at the end, you just want to make sure that you kind of just skip the top.
Yeah. So if you like thin it out early on, each pull you're like, are you letting off like half an inch
bit.
from the rim?
Yeah. Like
Just
my fingers will still go over it, but there's nothing that it's doing.
There's no pressure. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you'll just do like a light compress just in case it like gets out of
Yeah.
whack or
Now
something.
you want to make sure that they're not too thin. You can make like a razor thin sharp rim, and that is not ideal. That will chip super quick, and it will also cut your lips. So don't do that. You want it to be a little bit rounded. Remember that when clay is shrinking, it always gets smaller, obviously, because it's shrinking. But like that means all your points are getting sharper, all your rims are getting thinner. So you want it to look a tiny bit thick, probably like 1/8 of an inch when you are
1/8 of an inch?
Yeah.
Wet? Okay.
Yeah, 1/8 of an inch
Seems
isn't
pretty-
that
Yeah.
thick?
I was thinking like an eighth. Okay. Yeah. That's
So
fine.
like 1/8 of an inch, or to like, you probably want it to be maybe a little smaller than 1/8 of an inch, and that's going to shrink down to a really appropriate size if you were drinking out of something like glass.
Yeah. I was thinking a glass one is about an eighth. An actual glass is not 1/8 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very specific shape. Okay. Rims thinner, not effing it up. All right. Sweet. Yeah, the only time that I have to thin something out like that I am more conscious of is like the oil bottles, because I don't want them too chunky, because it's not going to hold the stopper as well. Like I kind of want a really clean rim on that. So I'll typically end up cutting off the lip.
Makes sense.
And then I'm usually, after I cut it up, I might do like a slight pull, and that will thin it out just enough.
Yeah.
To make that rim about, 1/8 of an inch or a little bit more than that wide. And then I can, the stopper will fit in there nicely when I do the oil bottles. So, okay, cool. I like that question. Do you want to read the next question?
Yeah. Fairly new potter here. I'm sure there is a reason behind why you indent the bottoms, but I'm not sure why that is. Is it better to indent them rather than leave them flat and sand them smooth? I'm curious as to why, and I always learn so much from you both. Thanks in advance. That's Pine Bug Pottery. So when I responded to her, well, what do you think?
I don't indent my bottoms. The only ones I indent would be... I don't think I indent any of them. You're the indenter. I do the flat bottoms, and then I sand. So
yeah,
I would think you would indent, because as it shrinks, it's gonna kind of
bow down.
Yeah, it's gonna kind of bow down. It depends on how wide the base is and how it's drying and stuff. The only times I see the bowing is like on my yarn bowls that are wide and flat, and I tend to flip them upside down when I dry them, so the bottom is drying, and they do bow a little bit, but I end up putting cork on the bottom, so it's not enough to make a difference.
Yeah. The reason why I indent is because when I was learning, it was taught to me that you should always have the least amount of surface area on a table. So
is that just to reduce crack, like scratching?
Yeah, on the table. And water rings, if there are any water rings. So,
okay.
Yeah, because like if you'd rather have a water ring instead of a water circle. But that's really what I said, found, that's what happened. But I don't think that there is any reason why really you should. I mean, especially if you're sanding. If you're sanding them down, fuck it. Like, do a flat bottom. Like, you do you, boo. It's like, do whatever you want.
Some people
Just
do.
Make sure it's not wobbly.
Yeah, I think there's a potter near me in Cincinnati. I think Sam Hitchman dents his in, and I want to say he does it probably on like a bisque mold or something like that. And they're like nice. They're smooth and stuff, but it gives it a nice like look to it.
Yeah.
Especially on the inside. I think he does like a little, kind of like that little spiral like on the inside bottom
Yeah.
of his mugs, and like it's actually like textured, so it looks really cool on the inside, and
Yeah.
then the bottom's smooth, so it's like it's nice and concave. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
When I dent my wine glasses, it's really nice. Like, they look really nice. You
Yeah,
know?
it's not like flat and then it's like dent.
Right. Yeah, no. It's like on purpose,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do, but that's the reason why people usually indent, in my experience. But,
Yeah. I mean, some people also do it for like the signature. I mean, Cherico does his. His is like stylistic.
Oh.
That's also.
I'm going to say
like-
this. I don't like those. I think they...
Say it. Look at your face. Oh, you're like stopped. Oh, well, Becca, enter Becca. Hold the phone. Wait before you say this. Hold on.
I think they're sloppy AF.
I think a lot of his pieces are thrown off the hump too. So there's
Yeah.
probably a functional reason too why he does the feet
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Besides
sure
just
that it helps
design,
with
and
S-cracks, too.
Yeah, and he does his signature inside that inset foot, which I don't know if the signature is something that would stick to the shelf or not.
Yeah. It's
was
just
touching it.
personally not my style. It's not my thing. But, like I said, you do you, boo.
I mean, it's part of his
Obviously-
signature. I think,
Yeah.
like it's his work, and that's part
Obviously,
of how he
it's not
finishes
hurting
his stuff.
him.
No, I mean he could sell his pieces for what he sells them for. That,
Yeah.
it's a way to distinguish yourself for sure. If it's something interesting, it's kind of fun. It's like a little like, hey, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, what I will say is the shitty cups that I got, the ones at the Berea craft show, they are indented a lot, like a ton in the bottom, and they are the most annoying thing ever. Like, I love a good indent. I love using them with that really heavy indent in the bottom, but then you put them in the dishwasher and they just hold all of that water. And it's
It's not quite like a wine bottle indent, but it's like half a wine bottle indent.
it is a wine bottle indent. It's like on the bottom
It's
of the wine.
that indented.
It's so bad. It's like super indented. And so like I dump like an ounce of water out of it every time I pull them out of the dishwasher. So
Maybe it's so you can like measure a shot in the
on
foot
the bottom,
and then dump it into
that's
something
fucking
else.
Smart. They are glazed on the bottom. Anyway, so that's my pet peeve about indentions sometimes. I also have seen, as we're talking about it, I have seen people put feet. When they put feet on the bottom of mugs, they put a little notch in the foot so that if they do go in the dishwasher, water flows out of it, which is a good design, if I may say so.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a potter that I have. I want to say his name is Owen because the bottom is like the way he trimmed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can spell out Owen in the way that he carved it with the O, the W, E if you turn sideways, and then N if you use a portion of it and all that stuff. So it's like all the water flows off of it. There's no water sitting. I want to say it's Contours in Clay or cut. I want to say Cousins in Clay, maybe something like that.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you are.
Okay, maybe that ties into this next question. What would be a great way to learn finishing techniques? Maybe how do you finish most of yours? Shitty cups, fancy cups.
I finish mine by trimming the bottoms of the fancy cups, and then I will sand the walls once they are bisqued.
And when you say trimming, are you trimming them to a smooth, like, rounded, or are you trimming an actual foot on them?
I smooth round with an indented foot.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like it has a foot on it, but it is indented on the inside.
And it's indented with from trimming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then shitty cups and pinch pots and stuff like that?
Shitty cups are just cut off the bat and indented in. And then,
Do you still use that like bisque ornament to indent
yeah.
some of those? Okay. You're not indenting with, you're not like using your thumb and going around it.
No. I use the bisque ornament, and then pinch pots I trim. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I'm on the thumbing off the bottom edge as much as I can. That's really just for speed and efficiency. I don't want to spend the time. I mean, by the time I trim some of these things, like I could tap center it on a foam bat and trim it in like 35 seconds or 45 seconds, but I still have to stamp it and all. Yeah, I generally thumb things off, and what I mean by is if it's leather hard or hard leather hard, I just support it with my left hand, and then I use my thumb of my right hand to go around the foot and smooth it out so that it's a nice curve to it and it's not sharp.
Yeah, I roll my bottoms. I roll them on the table.
Yeah. I haven't got the hang of that. I've tried it before, but like the clay, it depends on how much clay's down there, I guess. It like tends to fold up.
Yeah, I don't mind that look, so some people might.
Okay.
But yeah.
It makes a nice line for the glaze to stop and like pool a little bit just in case.
Yeah.
If you can get the hang of the rolling. But I mean, you also, depending on how you're finishing, you need to be conscious of that when you're throwing the piece. For one, if you're going to be trimming, you got to leave enough clay to be trimmed, and you got to be like, okay, how thin do I need to leave the bottom? Because am I going to trim a foot on this, or am I going to wiggle wire it? If I wiggle wire, I've been wiggle wiring more, which means I do need to leave it a little thicker, probably not quarter of an inch. Yeah, maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit. 3/8 of an inch.
Do I need to start bringing a tape measure to...
I have a tape measure. This is my box tape measure that I use. Yeah, like quarter, 3/8 of an inch or so thick, just because I have various thicknesses of wiggle wires, and I feel like customers don't generally like care as much about the wiggle wire bottoms. They just like, oh, I want this, and they see the price, but they're not like, oh, that's amazing. Some people are like, oh, how'd you do that? But it's like 5%.
It's like what I said at the Indiana Clay Conference, that I feel like a lot of people were like, what? I was like, please consider your customers. Like, if you are making a $30 mug that's not going to a potter, are they going to lift it up, look at the bottom, and be like, why isn't this sanded? Like, no. They're going to feel if it's smooth, and that's it. They are going to look at the bottom, but that's because they're looking for the price. And that's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I generally, like, even when I started getting the sanding pads and sanding some things, like, I was putting some fucking elbow grease into these things to sand them for, like, 5 minutes a piece. And, like, I have to tell the customer, like, hey, you should feel the bottom of that. It's really, really smooth. I sanded it. And they're like, oh, it is smooth.
Oh,
yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like, do they understand the justification of the price?
Yeah.
Like, can I charge $5 more because I sanded this thing, or not? So, I think it depends on for one, the look you're going for. For me, it's all about the time and efficiency. Yeah. Like, I like to produce a lot of pieces and have enough in stock so that I'm not running dry. So finishing techniques are quick for me. I'm not trying to put a lot of effort into them.
Yeah.
And I do trim like bowls, but I'm throwing them, flat bottoms, making sure they're thick enough that they're not gonna warp, and they're not gonna crack and all that stuff. And then I'm trimming the outside edge, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I just use one of the yellow mud tools ribs to like smooth it out, make it nice and smooth before it goes to greenware and bisqueware and all that stuff. But yeah, I keep it simple. And then the only other ones I do fancy are the carved mugs. Like, I will do that like faceted bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best name for it, I guess. And that's just mainly that's a way to just remove excess clay that's too hefty. that's how I initially started doing that. It was to cut away clay, and I probably need to share a video of that because I feel like that would be interesting for people to see. So faceted bottom, and that's a little more refined, and it's like people do tend to notice that a little bit more so than like a sanded bottom. And then my Sgraffito mugs, I do like flip those over, make sure they are underglazed or slipped on the whole thing, and I do carve the bottoms of those, but those are very specific pieces that are, you know, priced appropriately for that extra effort and that extra look. But I wouldn't say that, you know, I'm looking to do finishing techniques like that on everything to say like, this is my signature. It's more like, oh, I'm doing it on certain pieces so that it's like, oh, this one's a little different.
Yeah. Okay, the last one. Another question. It's the same concept, but could you all talk about butts? What makes for a professional bottom? Does it have to have a foot? Does it have to be trimmed at all? I think Ryan thumbs most of the things, and I do too. Which forms need to be trimmed? Thanks, guys. Goodwill Ceramics. So pretty much a lot of what we've already talked about, but I don't think...
Which forms do you think need to be trimmed? I would say bowls for sure. Like, can you cut away enough clay that you would not need to trim a bowl?
Yeah, you can, but it's hard. Bowls need to be trimmed, and I would say T-bowls, if you're going to go that direction, have to be trimmed.
Because T-bowls, T-bowls generally have to have a trimmed foot, right? Like,
yeah.
You can't have a T-bowl that's got a flat bottom on it.
If you're going to knock off... Oh, that was not okay. I'm not going to finish that. If you're gonna do a T-bowl, do it right. That's it. That's all I have to say.
I didn't even know what you were gonna say, but okay. I trust whatever you had in your mind of what you were gonna say.
Just trim it correctly, please.
Yeah, put a little effort into this when you're.
Yeah, don't.
If you're making a form that specific, like there's people that charge hundreds of dollars for these things. Like there's
like this. Actually, this is a little T-bowl cup. It's got a cute little foot.
Looks like a sipper. Yeah.
Whatever, you know.
Maybe a Unomi teacup.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know the differences of those?
No.
I think Unomis are generally taller than they are wide. And like Chawans are more like the bowl-shaped ones.
Can we please have somebody who's actually like well versed in Asian style ceramics, like T-bowls, teacup, T-bowls, whatever, those things that he just said. Please contact us, because I would fucking love to hear your thoughts on stuff. That would be so much fun to interview you about that.
Yeah.
Because I went through like a whole thing this last year about like Asian history within ceramics, specifically like Japan and China. And it was very fascinating, but it was all read late at night, so...
Nice.
Anyway.
Yeah. What? Anything else about this question? Like, what would you say would like make something look unprofessional or like?
Okay. Yeah. Because really, I think that you determine what is professional to you. Because you could have the shittiest looking cup there is, and it could sell for $1 billion. You know, like that's the way that the ceramics world works right now. So, I think that you need to determine whatever. I think that it just needs to fit the pot, you know?
Yeah. Like if for example, if my pots are kind of wabi-sabi a little bit for, you know, some of them, and they're metal ribbed. So if I did that, or if I did like the spiral bottom, if I were to like do a trimmed foot and like make it super, super smooth, like, would that go with the outside of my pot?
Right.
Like, it probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it might look a little off. So yeah, you got to kind of like figure out what base you want, but it has to look nice. Like, or it has to fit the aesthetic. Like if your aesthetic is grunge, you know, kind of like messy, not like put together, then that's what the base needs to be like. Now what I would say is if it's got a crack in it, that there's literally no excuse for a crack. So, nope,
Yeah.
crack kills, guys. And, but like, you know, if your pot is more of a messy style pot and you want to just cut it off and leave the swirl at the bottom from cutting it off the hump like Ryan does with his little shot glasses, that's fine. You just have to, you know, let it be, let it work with what it's got. But if you're throwing like a perfectly smooth sided wall and you have it cut off and there's a tiny little swirl at the bottom from the cutoff like wire, that's not gonna fucking fly. Like, trim your fucking piece. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
if it's super super smooth, like it looks like it came out of a mold, you can't have a like you can see the wire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely just up to whatever you're doing. And professionalism as far as pottery, I think, is just completely thrown out the window.
Yeah. I think there's like, do you think, getting into the wire thing, like, I started using those Dirty Girl pottery tools 7-inch thin ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been using those for a bit, but like,
You're
I
welcome.
really love those. I think there's definitely a gamut of wire cutoff, because when you cut off stuff with like a really cheap wire, you can like really see every line of that wire.
Yeah. Dude,
And
that's 7-inch.
It's not. It doesn't look as nice.
Yeah. I told Link that she really needs to make a 5-inch. If she could make a 5-inch cutoff wire, that'd be fucking dope. Because like they have a 3-inch and a 7-inch. Like, why don't they have a 5-inch? But yeah, the ergonomic thin wire from Dirty Girls is so nice. Like when
Got the orange.
Yeah, that's the
orange
one that
handles
you
on
have.
them.
Yeah. When I cut off my wine glasses, the shitty cups, you can't even fucking tell. They're so fucking smooth on the bottom. Like,
Yeah. Do you? This might be good for people. Do you cut off with the wheel spinning, or do you cut off with the wheel stopped?
so for the shitty cups, I actually cut off after they're almost leather hard.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you leave them on the bat, take the bat off the wheel, and you like do it the next day, probably,
Yeah, so
or like
I
at
wait.
the end of a throwing session.
I wait for them
No,
to
they're
be
not.
like a little bit firm, and then I cut them off. The reason being is that sometimes when you cut off right away and leave them on the bats, like I don't want to move the cups
Mm-hmm.
because wine glasses tend to warp if you move them after, like if they have a thumb indent.
Yeah.
So I leave them on the bats
Well-
and I don't cut off at all.
How are you finishing them though? Are you trimming them?
No, I cut them off and then I roll them on the table and then I indent them.
Okay, but why? Is
Why
it?
wait?
Have you had them stick to themselves?
Yeah.
Like stick back to the little patty that's on the wheel or
Yeah.
on the bat?
Yeah, and then when you pull it off, it like pulls off part of the little bottom part.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Okay. And is your clay a smooth clay, or is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I tend to have those same things, and that's mostly with marbles blocking the microphone. That tends to be like I'll see that with spoon rests maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean I cut those off immediately, but
I'm surprised you
Yeah.
cut them off. If I was doing spoon rest, I would just pop those fuckers off. Like, just let them
but
drop.
they, I don't know, they're super sharp. Like I would still have to. I wouldn't be able to thumb them off. I would have to like dry sand them off with
or
a metal
sponge
rib.
them off.
I've never
Or
sponged
rasp
them.
them
I mean,
off.
That's more work. I'm not gonna rasp them. What about the? Yeah, my speckled clay pops off much nicer the next
Yeah.
day when I wire everything. I'm not leaving anything on
Yeah.
the bat. I've left stuff on the bat before, but I don't know. I just don't like the result of a lot of the pieces that I do that on.
Yeah.
But it could be just how I'm undercutting them. Like if you undercut it at the right angle,
Yeah,
then it
it
pops
wouldn't be
off
so
correctly.
sharp. Yeah.
Yeah. But But yeah,
I
the wire
pay
tool is
attention.
definitely.
I definitely pay a fair amount of attention to the shitty cups, like when I throw them, so that if I just cut them off and they completely dried or they just popped off on their own, that you would never know. Like,
Okay.
it looks like I trimmed it.
Yeah, and you gotta have the right bat for that too. Like if you have a bat that's super flat, or if you have like those black plastic bats, if you have it on the wrong side, it could be like the textured side.
That
or
shit.
It could. So a lot of the plastic bats though are pretty smooth on the side. On the one side.
Do you know what our plastic bats do after a while, which is so weird? It is so weird. Every one of the production potters at work has had this happen. So we cut off, right, and then use pot lifters, and the plastic bats form its own little mound in the middle from like pushing in the plastic of some sort. So it's got a little tiny 2-inch hump in the middle of the bat.
From where the pot lifter did not make contact with the plastic?
Yes.
So it's slowly grinding away the plastic as
it's slowly moving the plastic in somehow. I don't know.
It's not moving it. You're grinding it. You're sanding it down by pushing metal onto it.
The middle is higher than the outside edge.
When you say outside edge, are you talking about the entire outside edge of the bat, like where you wouldn't even be putting pot lifters on it?
Right.
Okay. I was thinking you meant like from where you start the pot lifters and scrape them in and then pick them up.
No, it's got like a mound. And it's a visible 1/8 inch mound.
Okay. And they don't have like wooden pot lifters because they're not thin enough, and
yeah. So we're thinking about maybe trying to figure out how to make an aluminum bat that you could use over and over that wouldn't grind down.
Yeah, I use speedball bats for all my stuff, but I can see how how any kind of plastic bat would get agitated from constantly picking stuff up with metal.
Yeah.
You're scraping it on the bat, so. Okay. But yeah, I generally cut off with the wheel spinning.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like it looks cleaner than just to stop, cut. Because you get even the subtlest lines and stuff.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what I'm throwing. If I'm throwing a wine glass, like today, I'm gonna cut it spinning. But if I'm throwing something big and I have to cut under the bottom of something that's 7 inches wide, I'm gonna stop it and cut it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's a bowl that I'm throwing on my 7.5-inch square bat, I'm gonna cut that when it's stopped. Or spoon rest, I'm gonna cut it when it's stopped because I can't. You can't do that with a square bat.
Yeah.
You're really playing with fire there. So.
Isaac says hi, by the way.
Hi, Isaac.
Hi, Isaac. He's trying to figure out his squeebly.
Okay.
Yes. What are we doing next? What have we?
We're an hour in. I feel like do we cut it here and do another episode, or do we keep going with another question here? We got some more process questions. Do you know another process question?
Yeah, let's do a process question.
Okay, well, here's one. This is kind of finishing related. I'm helping a friend learn the basics of hand building. Well, he told me recently that he's been working at his home on his own, and that when the form he's working on is bone dry, he figures he still needs to work. He'll grab the sandpaper and work down whatever bump is bothering him. Is there something that It's something that I was never taught to do, nor was I. I'm fucking terrible here. Nor was I taught not to do it. So I'm throwing it to the professionals. Is there any? I don't know if we're professionals. Is there any reason that sanding a bone dry pot should be avoided? Is it neutral? Keith Vanover. That was a fucking shit show of a read. You should have read that one.
I don't know where it is, or else I would have.
Well, it's right. It's right up here.
Okay.
You got the gist of it, though. Sanding bone dry pots, yes, no, why you should, why you shouldn't.
Yeah, so...
Making adjustments to things that are bone dry, basically.
I could have sworn we already answered this question, but...
I mean, we've talked about it.
But the biggest reason you shouldn't be sanding bone dry pots is because of silicosis. That's the biggest reason. So silica is the in clay, and when it's airborne, it stays airborne for 24 hours. And when you inhale it, it gets stuck in your lungs, and it cannot escape. So, and you can Google the rest of that information. But yeah, so the main part of not sanding a bone dry pot is because of the dust that it provides. If you are going to sand it, don't sand it with sandpaper, sand it with a Scotch pad. I will say that. Use a Scotch pad. It's going to be a little bit easier and smoother, and it won't bug up the sandpaper. But if you are going to sand it, make sure you're sanding it outside with a mask. A respirator, not just a mask.
Well ventilated.
Yeah.
You know, if you do have to do it inside, have like an air purifier thing, but there's still going to be dust like produced. You're not going to get away from dust being produced.
Definitely do it outside though, if you can.
I mean, and also like, what are the like reasons why you wouldn't? I mean, fragility, like the pieces are super fragile when they're bone dry, so you don't want to like mess something up. If you mess something up and you break something, chances of you getting that thing like reattached or whatever is pretty slim. So,
and if it's just a little rough, put some water on it. Like use a sponge and try to fix it with some water, because that'll actually be a little bit better anyway. So,
and depending on how the details are, I mean, you could always wet sand it when it's bisque fired.
You could. It depends. Yeah, it depends. But yeah, I would say if they're dead set on dry sanding, go outside, wear a respirator when they're gonna do that. So, yeah.
All right, Keith, you got it.
The reason you weren't taught it is because it's not something to be taught.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it before. Like, I mean, it might be a comment where you're like, don't sand bone dry pots, or like, don't do this, but it's like getting in that conversation of all the reasons why, and like some class settings you might not be taught that, but you probably should be. But a lot of students are not going to be doing pottery for 10 years or whatever, however long past that class. So it might be something that gets breezed over, but it's still important to know. Do you want some other studio practice ones? Do you see the studio practice focused?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to pick one from there?
I was just reading those. I started reading one. Hey guys, love your podcast. It gave me the courage and knowledge to start my own pottery business recently. Things are going well. Was able to pay rent this month without a second job. Congrats. Thank you for your accessible and pertinent knowledge. Do you have any suggestions for trimming tool care? Oh, this is good. This I didn't even know that it totally, completely goes with what we've been talking about. They get dull, and I'm getting more pull on my pots while trimming, which leads to more escaping pots from my wheel head. Okay.
Ooh. Groundling ceramics.
Yes, groundling ceramics. First off, if you want to avoid dulling tools, try to be trimming your pots before they get past leather hard. So once they start drying up, that's what's like dulling up your tools. Second off, have you ever used like a whetstone?
No. What is that?
It's like kind of like a knife sharpener, but for like it is a knife sharpener, I guess, but like it's got like a 6,000 side and a 10,000 side. Yeah, we use them at work, and you can sharpen up your tools if you want to, but you just got to make sure they're wet and clean. I personally think it's just cheaper to just buy them, but and better
to just buy another tool.
To just buy new ones. Also, if you are trimming at more of a hard stage, you may consider using a different. Hold on, I'm gonna cough. Okay, sorry. Consider using like a different style of tool. So maybe one with like a thicker band, or
I mean, there's a range of tool like hardnesses and
Yeah.
like I've got a couple. I think they're steel. I haven't quite got the hang of those, where it's like a teardrop shape and it's a right angle.
Yeah.
Like you really gotta understand how to use that, and I can't quite understand it. But I usually use a lot of the same tools over and over. But Mud Tool's Do It All tool is probably my go-to trimming tool.
That used to be my go-to trimming tool, hands down. I love that tool.
I mean, you can definitely see when it's wearing because it is curved in where you trim all the time.
Yeah. But what's nice about that is that you can kind of turn it over and like use the other side if you need
like
to.
The right angle one, you can use all three sides of it pretty efficiently.
Yeah.
And it's not really, that out there to use it on all three of those sides. And then like the rounded side, I like to use that for the inside of the foot if I'm trimming something with an inner foot.
Yeah.
But I mean, trimming tool care, I'm not sanding anything. I'm not really like, but I do keep tools around for quite a bit. But I'm also not trimming a ton. So
yeah.
I mean, if I had to trim all my pots or most of my pots, like I would probably have more advice for trimming tool care. But I mean, I'm generally like cheaper tools. Like I got a couple Kemper tools that I use for my trimming. It's just like the triangle kind of shape.
Yeah.
Diamond Core has sent me some trimming tools. I've used them. They're pretty sharp. They're not my go-to number one trimming tool because, Mud Tools I like the angle of the Mud Tools of like how I trim certain feet.
Yeah.
Like having the right angles to get into the crevices of, rounding off the foot or, getting a nice flat inner foot. I like certain tools for that.
For sure.
Have you ever tried a bison tool?
What's funny is that I was just looking those up because I was trying to see if he had them up for sale or not because I need to buy a new one because I want one. And
so you do have one? You have one and you need to get another one?
Yeah, so I have one that's a paddle, essentially, I guess, or like, like the end of the do-it-all tool. I have one that's
It's a paddle?
No, it's just like a solid piece of metal, so it's like...
Oh, it's flat, yeah. It's like
flat.
A flat piece of steel.
Yeah, a flat piece of steel, and it's fantastic for trimming dry. And that's how I trim most of my stuff is like almost dry, leather hard to almost dry. So, but I'd really love to have one that's just a regular
trimming tool.
Because they are just fantastic. I keep mine in a sunglass case.
Oh, yeah. I never thought of that. That's a great size case for it.
Yeah.
Because they come in like a box, right?
They come in
like
a box. Bison tools are $90 to $150, somewhere in there. It's like they're expensive. They're not cheap. And if you drop them, they shatter. So because the metal is wound so tight, but what the benefit is that they don't go dull. And if they do, for some reason, go dull, then he'll sharpen them for you. And
wow.
Yeah, like he will sharpen. Like it's something about. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So he'll sharpen everything for you, and it's like $10 or something. Real cheap. It's made out of tungsten carbide, which is very hard, dense material. And it says, as a consequence, it is somehow or somewhat brittle in applications. And these are unsupported slender sections are extended out from the end of the little stem. So if you did drop it, they're going to shatter. And that actually happened to one of my coworkers at Gravesco. She had a bison tool, and it was magic. Like, if there was any pot that was too dry, it was so easy to trim them. And then it accidentally fell on the floor and it shattered, and it was so sad.
But and it's because the wood handles are like lathed, right? Like
yeah.
It doesn't have a flat spot. Like if they just sanded a flat spot on it so that it sat flat and didn't roll off.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's like that's the cream of the crop trimming tool, right?
Creme de la creme. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the best.
For sure the best tool that I've ever used. But it takes time. It takes time to use it too. Like, I got it first and I was like, I can't fucking trim with this. Like, everything's chattering. So, if it's too wet, if you're holding the tool at the wrong, like, position, like, angle towards the pot, it's a steep learning curve for the learning of the bison.
I think that's the problem I have with my flat ones like you have, like the teardrop one. Mm-hmm. I try to cut it like at a right angle to where it's like cutting perpendicular to the pot, but I don't know if I'm supposed to like angle it a little bit. Like there's a fine line of, the angle you have to cut it at and the hardness. Like I think I was trimming it at like soft leather hard or like leather hard or a little bit dry leather hard, and it was chattering a little bit. So, and then I just kind of gave up on it. I stopped using it, but I still have it. But I'm sure it would be better on my white clay that's smooth and doesn't have grog in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Oof. Bison tools. Also, if anybody's going to NSECA this year, I think Merritt's going. Maybe I'll have her buy me one. Because he's going to be at NSECA. But his website has no tools right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
where's he based at? Is he based on the West Coast somewhere?
I don't know.
Or Northwest or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, Dolan tools are great.
Oh, yeah. I haven't tried any of those.
Dolan tools are phenomenal. And it's a woman-owned company, which is cool. So if you're going to use a tool, that's what I would recommend. Like
they were at ClayCon West a couple years ago.
Yeah, she's really, really great. And, but yeah, I would definitely recommend that. We use those at work.
You use Dolan?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Marble to sit in my lap. She's just right in front of the microphone. Come on, sit down. Lay down. There you go. Marbs. Alright, trimming tool care. Let's see, what else do we got? We got one more here. Let's see. Sorry we're kind of ad-libbing here, but I think these took a little less time than we thought to answer, so.
I didn't even know we had a plan.
I mean, I had a general plan. I mean, I kind of want to. Those are kiln questions. All right, let's do this kiln one because I feel like this might be relevant to people's studio practices. Oh, hold on. Let's do this bat one here. Okay. Jody's just taking up the questions here. Question for Becca, and maybe for podcast too. I just got a job to make dinnerware for a local restaurant. This was one of my goals for the business, so I'm super excited. Anyways, I'm thinking through the process, and I'm doubling my shelf space and also need more bats. I was wondering what y'all's opinion are on bats, especially for plates and larger bowls, plastic or masonite, pros and cons of each. I'm thinking to help minimize warpage, masonite bats might be the better move since they're absorbent, so it would help dry more evenly. Super low humidity here right now, and things dry out faster even under plastic. Plastic bats don't necessarily increase warpage, but the humidity issue where it makes me think the bases would dry even slower than the rims and increase likelihood of warpage. I'm about to drop a couple $100, so I figured I should make a better informed decision after seeing what y'all think. Thanks. Another thing too, masonite bats have holes at 10 inches, so any issue there with making plates, or is it not an issue because the little bumps will get trimmed either way? Jody from Goodwill Ceramics. Bats.
You know what's funny about this is that I told him what I would go with, and he went with a different one.
So what'd you tell him? What was your recommendation? This is specific to dinnerware, so it was for bigger stuff, right?
Yeah. So I would go with a masonite bat. He went with the plastic bats. I think that the plastic doesn't absorb enough, and you have to cut off. I've never cut off.
Well, the plastic doesn't absorb anything, right?
Right.
That's
obviously.
the idea.
Obviously, I know that, but like, but oh no, Siri, no. Yeah, I would always go for masonite. Now, we got some masonite bats that have been real shitty. Like, super shitty. They've been, like, pulling off and getting fuzzy in the middle, like, immediately. So that would kind of suck. Yeah. But
that has to do with how they're coated or something, or?
Yeah, I think so, if they're not marine grade or not.
Or do you have to flip? Is there, like, a good side to the masonite bats or a bad side?
There is not.
I mean, if they're double-sided masonite, they should be the same, right?
Yeah, they should be fine. But yeah. So I'm sorry.
What do you?
Okay.
What do you use for all of your well, I guess we
use
good.
all masonite.
Okay.
And the reason I don't like plastic for plates is because you have to cut it off. And I don't like cutting off plates because then you potentially could cut through the plate. And it's a fucking pain in the ass to cut off plates.
Because you got to take your splash pan off, and you got to make sure that you have the right thickness of wire, and it's...
Yeah, so I would always use masonite. He got plastic, which I'm sure he did fine. It would be fun. Jody, you need to let us know how the plastic went. I'm sure it's fine. Like, I would probably still let him just dry on the plastic, honestly, and just dry him low and slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plates and larger bowls. I have like 5 masonite ones, maybe 6.
Yeah.
And I don't use them. I got them secondhand from somebody. I think I got my wheel from somebody, and they happen to have these masonite ones. Oh my gosh, Marble bit me in the arm. So I mean, they are good for like smaller, like spoon rests and bowls and stuff. Like, they do flex a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's good. They are round, and I think they're 12-inch ones. So, you know, I'm not using them for big stuff, but I do like the absorbency. Like, I do have to add water to them first to make sure that it'll stick right. Marble. And, like, I do like it for that, but...
Yeah.
You know, the plastic is my go-to for everything else because I use the speedball ones for everything. And I like the flexibility. Like, I can still flex those even if they're 14-inch or 12-inch wide bats.
Yeah.
They're hollow on the bottom, so like there's no holes for the wheel head like a plasti bat has, and I can, you know, do a little flex with it, which I've made plates on them before, and like they're pretty good. Like, if I was to have a plastic bat, I would choose that, not even because they gave them to me, but like the flexibility, like you said, like getting them off if I were to, because I would still cut them. I like, how would you, because I generally trim an inner foot on a plate, so is it still as doable if you like let the plate pop up to trim an inner foot, or is it generally going to be a leather hard when you pop it off?
It'll be leather hard when it pops off. As far as the hole is concerned, I've never really had an issue with the hole, because especially if you're pulling out past the holes on the bats and then you're moving in, I don't know anybody that has an interior of a plate that's more than 10 inches, which is what the hole's at. You know?
Interior, like inside the foot?
Like the base, like the base of the foot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the base of the foot would have to land exactly where those holes are for it to be a problem, right?
Yeah, or like, yeah, actually, yeah.
But you're gonna cut it off.
Yeah, even when I was doing, if you're gonna cut it off, who fucking cares? Even when I was doing cake stands, I would throw it with the foot, like with the hole, and just kind of like sand it down a little bit.
Okay. Oh, you would throw. Oh, I got you. You would leave it on there,
Yeah.
and then when you popped it out, the little tabs came out with it.
Yeah, and I just kind of like scoot it down and sand it down a little.
Yeah. What about like bowls? Does it make a difference? I know you all throw. I mean, you all still throw those on Masonite, like those big bowls, those everything bowls. Like
I threw those on
and
my
some
square
change.
bats.
Yeah, and those bats are what, 7 inches, 7.5
Yeah.
inches?
7 inches.
That's
but
impressive.
The
So wait, are you when you throw it on that? Are you going out past 7 inches at all, or you're keeping the whole thing? Oh, okay.
yeah, I pull out past 7 inches and then I, and then I, sorry.
I didn't even notice that until you said. I was like, all right, Becca.
I pull the base of the piece out over the pinholes and the bat holes, and then I push it back in and use the bat as kind of like a measuring.
Oh wait, do you have you use your bat system, right?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah.
So you still have like one big notch in it?
Yeah.
And then there's clay that collects in there as you
Yeah.
open it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not terrible.
No. Yeah, I've tried to use the ones that I have with 4 notches in it. That's a fucking shit show. Everything gets like...
Yeah. I mean, that would probably get caked in there, right?
Ugh, it's terrible. So, yeah, but, yeah, I just go outside the bat system and it's fine. But I've never had an issue with the bat holes. Like, I don't know about other people, but I've never had an issue. I certainly would, like, if you were to give me the choice of plaster, masonite, and plastic, I would go masonite, plaster, plastic. Plastic would be my absolute last choice.
If you're making the pieces that you make now, is what you're saying. The
If I'm
production
making
pieces?
plates.
Oh, plates. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it matter the plastic though? Like, are you talking plastic bat? Are you talking about speedball bat? Are you talking about? I mean, those are the only 2 plastic bats I know of. But
Yeah, I don't know. Plastic bats are fucking shit. I hate plastic bats so much.
I got a I got like a makeshift bat system from the guy that I bought my last wheel from.
Oh yeah.
It's that like wooden one that he made,
Yeah.
and he has tiles.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're
I
like-
hate tiles.
They're like glazed.
Yeah.
So like, ain't no flex to those tiles, like,
Oh,
and
my
they ain't
God.
absorbing anything. So
Can I tell you that we have 2 things that are wide and low that we throw on bats, okay? We have an incense burner and we have a Palo Santo burner. Okay, I throw the Palo Santos, Sarah throws the incense. Sarah throws so many fucking incense burners and she uses tiles. She uses the 6-inch glazed tiles in her bats because Rebecca got them for 3 cents each. And they are literally not worth the price. Like,
you said they're glazed, right? So
yeah, they're glazed.
They're glossy. They're not
shiny. They're shiny. It takes... she literally cuts them off. Okay? She cuts them off with a wire, and we can't even get them off the fucking bats after, like...
So why? And they're. What's the proportions of this? I don't understand the size of it, or to help people understand the size.
It's probably
of
like
it.
4 inches wide on the base.
Okay, so it's kind of like a spoon rest, sort of.
Yeah, like a spoon rest width, yeah. And she, like, cuts them off, and if we don't hit it at the exact right time, we can't even get them off until they're dry. Like, it's so fucking annoying. Like, I was like, literally, we should not be even using these tiles. They are straight from hell, and, like, they have no give. You need a little bit of give.
Yeah, you almost need to like sand it or something, or
It's
just chuck them and find.
so bad. Like, I wish we could just find some bisque tiles, like, that were cost effective, but we can't.
Bisque would be great, right? They'd
Yeah,
have
you
to
can
be
get bisque
the
tiles
perfect
from-
size.
Yeah, you can get bisque tiles from Bisque Imports, but, like, the glazed tiles, man, those are fucking terrible. And I can't
Why doesn't she do them on masonite, and then the masonite would dry, and then they would pop off?
We don't have enough masonite bats, and also she doesn't like the feeling of masonite. She says it feels like chalkboard to her. So
yeah, I can see that. I mean, you've got to wet it, right?
Yeah,
you have to wet the masonite. Do you actually wet it, or do you like dip it in water and then put it on the wheel, or?
No, just with a sponge.
You just sponge it.
I just clean it off, and if it's clean enough, I don't clean it at all. But yeah, it's just like they're so fucking terrible, and I can't even throw on them. I started throwing the patty bowls on them, like the bowls from one of our customers, and I was.
Are those ones that you use the wire picker or the pot lifters?
No,
for?
they stay on the bats, and I was using the tiles like at the beginning when I didn't have my bat system at work, and I like the tile just kind of throws me off because it's so smooth, and it just throws everything a little bit off kilter, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I threw a handful of things on it. There's 2 different bat systems for that. There's like tiles that are about 6-inch tiles or 7-inch tiles.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're 6-inch tiles, and then there's tiles that are maybe 10 inches or 8 inches. I have not broken those out yet. I don't know if I even want to try them. Yeah, and honestly, that bin that I have them in is so fucking heavy. There's really probably heavy. Like 50 tiles in there, and I'm like, this thing is gonna break my back.
You know what? If I was gonna throw anything on those tiles, I'd throw spoon rests on them, figure out how to like really cut them down so they're not sharp, and just let them be.
Let them pop.
Let them pop.
I might do that.
Because they're really nice and smooth on the bottom. Like when they do pop off and you don't cut them.
How would you sign those then?
Just don't.
Don't sign them. Just don't sign them. Maybe we'll figure something out.
You could do an underglaze stamp.
Yeah, maybe that's possible.
That's for sure possible.
Yeah, underglaze stamp. Company. You get like a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to try that. I think Jody actually uses an underglaze stamp for his stuff.
I used to. Yeah.
Underglaze stamp. Okay. But yeah, I've got those tiles, and I'm like, I haven't even broken them out. But the actual like system is fitted to that wheel because the bat pins on it are not actually off. They're not at the 10-inch thing. Yeah. They like got drilled specifically for that wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, you could retrofit it. You could probably drill holes in your own wheel head, but you probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
But if I gave these to somebody and like, you know, here you go. Here's a bunch of bats or whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. I might. Maybe we'll see if that's doable because I think I'm gonna have somebody help me throw some spoon rests next year.
Nice.
So we'll see how that works. I might have to do that. Also, it seems like you could use a sharper tool to undercut those. Because generally, I wouldn't use like metal tools to undercut. I just use wood ones, so it's not degrading to the bats. But I could use a metal one, right?
Yeah, you could. Do you know what tool I use is the JA17 from Kemper? I can send you one.
JA17.
It's a wood tool, but it's really solid. But Kemper has been shitting on their quality recently, so you have to, when you get it, you kind of have to sand it down to a point. But also,
That's
what you're
talking about.
That's
considered a sculpting tool? That thing doesn't even look sharp.
Yeah, well, mine is. I got like 15 of them because I used to buy them for all my students.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, big ceramic store.
I'll just send you one, right?
I'll just COVID-19 message. Please note we are closed for business due to COVID-19.
I'll just send you one in a little flamingo package that I have.
I just wanted to see what the shape looked like.
Yeah.
Or you can just bring it the next time you see me.
That works too. What I will say... Oh, I was going to tell you, this is kind of off subject, but not really. So I got I told you about the kick wheel I got, right? The Lockerbie?
Yeah, have you got it in your studio?
We have it right outside the door. And
I know. Does it actually fit through the door? I think that's where we left off last time.
We haven't checked. We don't
So
have
you're going to be
time.
doing pottery demos in the hallway.
It's Christmas time, okay? Give us a break. So anyway,
It's Christmas time in the city.
so I got the splash pan from the Lockerbie, and I was like, fuck yes, I'm gonna put this on my wheel at work, because specifically my wheel at work is the wheel head's a little bit wider, and so I tend to get holes in my aprons because of the wheel head, because my stomach is touching it, because I'm all the way up on the wheel. And so
We say wider, like it's like a 14-inch
it's
wheel
14
head,
inch,
though, right?
and I'm used to a 12 inch. And so
Okay.
so I put on the splash pan, and it kind of works, but it like scoots all the way up to the wheel head, and so it's metal on metal, and it's really disgusting sounding.
Sounds terrible.
So I found out on the Lockerbie wheel, it has like a little stop on it, like a little C clamp kind of, that stops it so that it just stays put. And
it just hits that,
I looked under the bottom of the Soldner, and the Soldner has a little guard for the wheel spinning. And so I put 2 little corks on the inside of the splash pan and pushed it all the way in, and it's my little guard. It like guards it.
It like pushes it out just enough to where it doesn't touch.
Yeah, it's just like
a
a 1/4 inch that it pushes it out. And
yeah, I saw that in your stories, and I was like, oh man, that is so tight of like a fit.
Yeah.
Like that splash pan is catching water and only water. There's no clay getting flung off into that splash pan, right?
No, but I don't. There's no clay anyway.
Yeah, you're just, you're so fucking good that there's no clay.
Like, the amount of water that I put back into my bucket at the end of the day is like a sponge full. Like, I like tip it over, and it's like, meh, and that's it. And I clean it out. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. You could almost like go around a class and just look at somebody's splash pan and be like, too much water, too little water.
Yeah, though I found
not enough water on your hands because there's a bunch of clay scraps in the thing, so it's like flinging off.
Yeah. Mara is a really messy potter, and so is Seraph, as far as like how much water they use. And Dusty was fucking terrible. Like, he would use so much fucking water. I use way less water than anyone.
Not terrible as in you can't use a lot of water, but it's like excessive.
It's like he used a ton of water, because he was always like, how does your bucket not like empty? And I'm like, my bucket stays the exact same level the entire time I'm throwing. The amount of clay that's coming into the bucket is the amount of water that's coming out. like that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the girls at work are like, I don't know how you don't have a splash pan, or even the splash pan that I now have. Like, how it's not barely anything.
Yeah, because like I would say Brent is one of the go-to, like catching a lot of water, and
yeah, Brent's a hardcore splash pan.
Good for that, yeah.
Yeah.
So. Alrighty. Yeah, I saw you use those like corks or whatever, right?
Yeah, E6000 those corks onto that splash pan.
Oh my gosh.
That was a $0 fix for a $150 splash pan that I traded for 2 fancy cups and 4 shitty cups.
Love it.
And I told him, I was like, Matthew, I would have traded you just for this splash pan. Worth it. Worth it.
Love it. All right. Do we have anything else?
No.
I think my clicker thing is messed up here.
I'm about drunk. I've drained this bottle of wine.
All right. Do we want to answer another question and get Becca more drunk here?
No.
No. My clicker's not working. I don't know what's going on.
It's also 12:10. It's time.
Yes.
It's time.
It is time.
Does the clicker work now?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Hey, we're connected again. There we go.
Hooray!
It's back in business.
Okay.
All right. Did we mention that we already said we're gonna be at ClayCon, but
It's in the works. It's not confirmed, but it's mostly confirmed that we will be doing a podcast live at ClayCon West because one of the artists had to duck out. So I texted Joe and was like, do you want us to do a podcast?
yes,
So.
I think we'll be doing Wheel Talk live at ClayCon West.
Which is exciting.
Yes. So we'll have a topic in mind, we'll share it, and then we will likely have a lot of questions out there.
You know what we should do is a drinking game podcast, like where we have to take a sip every time something happens. You know?
Like what happens?
I don't
Like
know. We should do that though. We should have like a drinking game, like podcast that we do one time.
The listeners drink too, right?
Yeah.
Not just us.
Yeah, but it would be fun to get fucking smashed.
At like 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning before I have to
Hell
talk
yeah.
at 3 o'clock. No.
Hell yeah. No, yeah. He was like, do you want to do all of your things on the same day? I'm like, absolutely not. I was promised whiskey.
I feel sorry for the attendees that have to listen to
For reals. They're like, these people again?
they're like, is this like sponsored by Wheel Talk or what? Like,
Like, what the
how many
fuck?
bones are they throwing you all? I mean, come on.
These people are ugly.
You again?
You again?
Get off the stage.
You're annoying as fuck. And I will be driving all of our stuff to Wheel Talk or to ClayCon West, hopefully. So we don't have to ship
It's
it.
a long drive. I am not
Yeah.
going to be involved in that.
He's like, I'm not jealous and I'm not going to be involved. Thank
We
you.
will be flying.
Also, this is a fun tidbit for people that don't care. I became an Indiana resident this week. I have my
You
own.
did.
I got a driver's license. I have a license plate coming in the mail at some point.
Nice.
Crazy.
Love it.
Crazy.
I don't know if I announced it on here, but we officially closed on the house. Like,
Yeah, you did.
We're one house down.
One house down. Fuck yeah.
Down to one house.
You know
Love
what's
it.
funny is that Rachel is now above you in the sharing portion of, you know how like when you share a story in Instagram, Rachel's above you because we keep sharing house stuff.
So you're saying when you go to share a post, Rachel is the first, or maybe not the first person, but she's
She is
like
above you.
one.
Yeah.
She's above me, so you share to her more than you share to me.
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, you only share to me cat stuff for the
it's
most
true.
part. So.
And whenever I share you cat stuff, I share it to her too.
Right.
But yes.
All
I
right.
noticed that tonight. Anyway, we should get off before we make a fool of ourselves. Or me,
I
specifically.
don't know if that's already. I think we're past that, but all right. Thanks everybody for listening. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. We appreciate all the questions. Thanks for sending those all the time.
Yes, thank you
We
so
like
much.
answering them. They guide the conversation.
Yeah.
And we can also ad-lib because you all send us so many that we can just be like, all right, these are related to that. Let's answer these. So
Yeah, when we're too tired to have a
keep them coming.
yeah. I actually have a really good idea for an episode. And I'm going to say it on here before we end because it would be really great for people to send us how long it took you to be good in pottery. Like what you feel like is good,
Yeah.
you know?
Until you're like,
Comfortable.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
you're like comfortable.
I'm like, not. I'm trying to think. Not content. Not.
Confident.
Yeah, confident or like something else with a C that I can't think of.
Confident.
Competent.
Competent. Yeah, it'd be great for you guys to let us know how long it took you to be competent. Because,
You're still figuring that out.
yeah, well, just, reflecting on being at Gravesco for a year and, like, before that, knowing as much as I did and then being here for a year and like how much I've learned. So, yeah. Anyway, we should leave. Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Yo, higgity, yo. It's Becca here. Hey, just so you know, thank you for listening. And also, we have... What do we have again? A Patreon. We have a Patreon that you should go, and if you want to donate to, you could donate to it. If you don't, that's cool too. But just Google Wheel Talk Podcast Patreon. Don't do the other one, because there is a Wheel Talk on Patreon, but it's not us. So make sure you get the right one. It's in the show notes. And also, leave us a review because they're fun to read. Okay, bye!